because I was starting from scratch again. So ideally, it's nice to find a place where you can stick out for a few years at least, because once you're in, then you know, and that's what's happening with Dr. Liz Wheeling is, you know, she's worked very hard in Minnesota to work with the refugee and immigrant population, has so much respect and in from that population that if she moves anywhere else, it'd be literally starting from scratch. So I think those are the things. And don't always go to a community when you need something, right? You'll hear this a lot. Oftentimes as researchers, we're like, oh yeah, we have to do this, and we go out. I think maintaining long, sustained partnerships, giving back, which is really hard when, as an academic, you're wearing so many multiple hats and you're constantly, you know, getting pulled to still figure out, okay, what are your needs? How can I help you with professional development or anything else that you need as your organization? So those are the things I would say. Thank you.
Jesse Smith from Texas Tech. I'm just wondering about any other just general tips that you have for us as budding professionals.
That's huge.
Anything that's like been really influential in your early career that you feel like really made a difference for you?
I think I realized early on that I have thick skin, right? Because you can't do this work if you don't have thick skin. The amount of rejection that we get is unbelievable. So I think that has really helped me tremendously. And not giving up, that I can do this, you know, and if somebody else can do this, I can do it too, why not me? I think really holding on to that is critical, because you know, you'll meet all kinds of mentors in your life, some supportive, some not so supportive, but really knowing that you have the agency to find people who will see that in you, even if that takes 2 years. It took me 2 years to find a mentor for my K Award. So I started the process in about late 2006. I finally found a mentor and submitted my application a couple of years later. So don't give up. The amount of cold calling I had to do, because nobody in the field of family therapy was doing this work. So how do I find the mentor? I mean, it was insane, the amount of messages that I left people, emails that I wrote, and people didn't respond because obviously they're really busy, but some did, right? So I think hang in there. I think that's one of the earliest lessons was it's not personal. People are often extremely busy. And the other thing that I had to do was learn how not to be shy. I don't know, you know, how you're with that, or a lot of you. That's a huge, I literally, you know, so I graduated from Texas Tech. Liz Wheeling was my major professor. She was my advisor. So we have a lot of connections here. And I clearly remember, for me, finding a woman of color as my mentor was huge, huge. And she would role play and practice with me. The amount of things we've done. She taught me how to put makeup on. Like, I can't tell you. I mean, the things that she has taught me is incredible. But we would practice. What am I going to say to a program officer now? Like, what do you want me to do? Call someone, walk up to them, introduce myself? Like, what do I say beyond hello? I don't want to sound not intelligent. So the amount of role plays and practice I have done today, for me to be able to stand here and talk to you, has been a journey. It did not come intuitively to me. When I came to the United States, I couldn't label emotions. I came from a very cognitive culture, a lot of thinking, right, in India. I remember my doctoral buddy, senior at Texas Tech, how are you feeling today? And I would go into explaining how I was feeling. It's like, no, I want to know how you're doing today. I had no words for emotions. So we literally, what you do with clients, I had an emotion chart. I would have to pick out emotions for him. So it's been a long journey, but I think just finding the right mentors and realizing in your power that you can do it and don't give up in the face of rejection, I think would be the main things that I think have helped me at least be here and to continue this journey.
I don't have a question so much. Leslie Anderson, University of Georgia. But just an expression of appreciation for your transparency. because before Dr. Wheeling came to speak last year at the Institute,
That's right.
I'd never heard of an MFT as an interventionist.
That's right.
And just speaking to peers and colleagues at UGA, I just feel like I'm yet again like in the minority and people not really understanding where I'm coming from and like really talking about like how important I feel like it is to be community engaged.
Absolutely.
And we talk about social justice, but yet and still like we're in our clinics within the walls of our therapy offices. And it's like the people that need our interventions the most are the ones least likely to come into our therapy offices.
Absolutely.
And so we have to literally meet them where they are. So I just want to say thank you, for letting us hear more about what it is that you do. I just found that incredibly refreshing and encouraging. And so it may not be like within the next 10 years that I get to do exactly what I want, but just believing that at some point, you know, things will come to fruition. So.
Absolutely. And there is no one path, right? My path is very different from what you will hear. And my path, again, began in a traditional family therapy program as a faculty. But I was not satisfied with that. I wanted to do something different. So I had to go out and do it on my own. But I found people to help me through it. And then I don't know of other family therapists who have a degree in public health, right? So I had to kind of figure out what I'm going to do and then move. So now I'm in a school of public health that houses a Department of Family Science, which is incredible. It's only one of 2 universities in the country that does that. And yet I'm here today, right? I teach a lot of public health students, and I'm able to integrate mental health into public health, which is only solely focused on physical health. That was my dream. So there are ways that you can do it. Get confident about talking about yourself. Really being able to market yourself is critical. So we spend a lot of time working with students about their elevator pitch. Get your elevator's pitch down. It is critical because sometimes all you may get is that brief window, being able to talk about why you do what you do and why that's important.
So it's University of Maryland and
College Park. Sorry?
The two institutions are University of Maryland and the other one is?
I was at upstate New York at University of Rochester. So.
My question is kind of directly tied to what you were just talking about. I wonder more about like your personal journey and your decision to go continue and pursue education in public health by not finding what you were looking for in the MFT world. And so I kind of just wondered more about that process for you and what you figured out that you were specifically looking for and then what you found kind of in public health.
It's a great question. So I came to the US really because I wanted to learn about trauma and how to develop trauma-based interventions and evaluate them. And I felt like through the doctoral program, I didn't have, at that point, faculty who were doing this work well. So I really adapted to learn how to work with multicultural populations. So that's what I made the focus of my graduate work. And when I left, I knew that I had somehow had to find the path of doing what I wanted to do. And it took me some time because, again, I was in a traditional family therapy program, really well known at that point, Syracuse University. But there was nobody to guide me in terms of how do you do this, because they were doing their own research, important, but not at the scale that I wanted to do that. So I had to look for people outside, speak to program officers, attend some of the other conferences that traditionally are not attended by family therapists, where a lot more people from funding agencies come to understand really what do they fund within the area of trauma, and how do I go about doing this. So I think it started there, and then actually, my getting a K Award was very influenced by Liz Wheeling getting a K Award ahead of me. So that was the first place I learned about that you could write for a K Award, because initially I had all the legal boundaries of being an immigrant into this community, in this country, that didn't have all the legal paperwork. Like, you have to be a citizen actually to apply for a lot of the funding. So I could not apply for funding for a pretty long time till I became a citizen. And then I really followed Dr. Wheeling's path to say, okay, I want to be able to develop these programs. I want to be an evidence-based researcher. it seems like a care ward is one pathway that I can do this through. And when you do a care ward, you have to write about what you already know, but you have to identify another line of work that you need to get trained in. And that's why you can get a care ward, otherwise you can't get a care ward. So the line of work that I wrote in was, one, content-wise, I wanted to know more about HIV, but the second one was really how do I learn advanced statistical methods and developing and running clinical trials. So as part of that, it just naturally happened. I had to do coursework. So you really, in a care ward, you have to identify what classes are you going to take. And a lot of the classes that I was taking was in public health, right? That's what public health is really a great place to take some of these advanced methods classes. And by the time I was done, I was halfway through the coursework. So I was like, I'm one of those types of people who just, wants to do the next thing, probably never get out of school. So because I had done half the coursework already, I was like, this makes no sense for me to stop. I am a faculty here already, and by then I had marketed myself out of Syracuse into medical school at University of Rochester. So for 5 years I worked in a department of public health, in behavioral and community health, which was the closest match to what I do. But I landed up finishing my degree as an academic there. So I was doing it, took me a while, I was doing it part-time. As a faculty, but I kind of finished because I felt like that gave me the credibility. So that was the reason why I chose to finish it, because now in my CV I can say that and everybody understands it. So it gave me the credibility, which goes back to the question as a family therapist, how do you market yourself that people will really listen and give you the credibility? In the funded world, I felt like I need this another identity as well that will give me the credibility, that will make at least the external reviewers will, not just family therapy, what is that, right? To be able to say I do this work as a public health scientist. So I pitched both my identities forward. So that's why I decided to do that. And I think it's been very beneficial for me.
Okay, we're gonna bring this portion of our day to a close. Thank you so much, Mona. It was wonderful. Yes.